Hey everybody, it's the Scene World podcast again. I'm AJ.
Hello.
Jörg is right there. He's over in Germany. I'm in the US, which is falling apart as we speak. I'm in a third world country for some reason.
Heard about that.
Yeah. Uh, uh, Falling apart for entirely legitimate reasons, I might add. It's not just falling apart because it's falling apart. It's falling apart because we have an idiot in command, and it's falling apart because of systemic injustice that's been occurring for hundreds of years. But that's a other story. We'll do that on another podcast maybe. So in a minute, we're talking to Hien and Hakan Bilenler from Nukklear, and we're talking to them about the new Comanche reboot for the PC, and I think it's just the PC, right? At the moment?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the publisher is THQ Nordic.
Yes. Yep. So it's this is another cool one. So we're talking to them in a bit. There'll probably be some gameplay footage as well, and
Certainly.
we'll see what happens. Yeah. Before we do that, though, there's some news to get to. So let's take a look at the scene and tell you what's happening.
Yeah. So, should we start? David Pleasance, former general manager of Commodore UK, he's working on a definite AMIGA directory.
Yes.
To be published on his homepage, and he made a Google form where everybody that does something AMIGA related can register.
What's the definition of AMIGA related?
Well, like our disc magazine, for example.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's something. So we will put that in the link section of the podcast.
Okay. Sounds good.
So what you got?
One thing, this happened early in April, and I guess it's been a while since we spoke about, or we did an intro. But in television, who we talked to a little bit ago about the Amico, the new thing that they're doing, they've received more than 10,000 pre-orders for the system. At the moment it became available. And that was March 31st. So the pre-sales, the price is $249 for the black version and $279 for a wood grain version. And that's pretty solid. I mean 10,000 pre-orders for something which is largely it kind of flies in the face of everything that game design and game consoles have been doing. Putting the promoting in-person play rather than online play, and promoting games that are family friendly rather than bloody and gore and stuff like that. So
yeah, as they mentioned in the interview, something the we did.
Yeah, right.
Getting the casual gamer aboard,
Yep.
like
Yep.
your grandmother, your parents, and stuff.
Yes.
That otherwise
Yeah.
would never pick up a video game.
Right. Exactly. So that is awesome. Good for them. I
mean, if you look who's behind it.
Yeah. Well, Tommy Tallarico is
Earthworm Jim. Just to mention
Yes.
one thing where he did music for, or Hans Ippisch, who had also fingers in a lot of retro games, and making the first censored video game in Germany. And also on June the 5th, Hans Ippisch announced on LinkedIn a very special moment in television. Amico, now available at Amazon Germany. A truly impressive product placement. Great jobs from the colleagues at Koch Media. So that means now at Amazon Germany the product is listed. So that also means you can buy it from there as well. We will put a link to that product catalog entry of Amazon Germany as well. Furthermore, we also received news from Min Becker that his retro jump'n'run Tekkelshin is actually going to be released on Steam for the PC 1 month early. So that now can be added to your wishlist if you go to Steam. We will put a link to that in the description as well. And also, they will be our next guests in the podcast. So Min and Mina Becker. Furthermore, last but not least, I got another news. And The Verge wrote that Sega is celebrating the 60th anniversary this year. And they are working on another retro console, the Game Gear Micro. And it will be smaller than the normal Game Gear, which was the handheld, to rival the Game Boy.
Yep.
So,
I've got another thing here, and this is kind of old. I feel like we should have talked about this a while back, and I don't know that we did. And maybe we did, and if we did, take this out, because and my phone's playing noise because unless I'm looking at it on, is the progress cart. It's a PRG RES SD card reader. Maybe we did talk about this.
Nah, don't remember it.
It's commonly referred to as tape cart. It's faster than Tapeweeno. It's faster than SD2 IEC, and it's faster than the Pi 1541. It's similar to Tapeweeno, but doesn't load tape files. It loads PRG and cartridge files instead, and at incredibly fast speeds. So it uses, there's a micro SD card reader. It comes with a pre-formatted 8 gig ready-to-use micro SD card. And the hardware is the slimmed-down Tapeweeno by Sweet Little Marie. Software is Tape Cart by Unseen and Enthusi. Tape Cart SD is a fork of Tape Cart that adds SD card support using the Tapeweeno by Kim Jorgensen. Wow. It's pretty cool looking. I'm looking at it here. I'll hold up my phone to the screen, even though we'll have pictures of this and it'll probably go over this. So it's not really point. There's no point to me doing it, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. And that's all it is. That plugs into your tape slot.
No, we didn't mention that.
I feel like we did, but I guess maybe we didn't. And if not, it's worth talking about again.
True.
Okay.
Well, other news.
Yes.
There is another documentary, The 8-Bit Wars, and there will be interviews with people like David Pleasance and so on. So
nice.
It's actually right now 35 days to go. Okay. So it's pretty much still running when you're listening to this.
Yeah. All right.
Cool. I pledged myself for the Blu-ray purge. So
nice.
Then there was a bit of a shitstorm about the physical release of Street of Rage 4 for the reason that limited run games opened pre-order. Yeah. And we all know limited run games is in the US. And so you would have to pay high shipping and taxes outside of the US when you import and stuff.
Yes.
And unlike the limited edition for Command & Conquer, for example, because they are doing a reboot of the first and second part of the series.
Yes.
That is actually shipped from the EU. So because I ordered it from Germany, and I wouldn't have to pay for taxes and stuff, because I asked them before I ordered, like, should I order somewhere else or should I expect any problems with customs? And they said no. But here the thing is that actually 2 companies got a license agreement to make a limited signed or special edition, to say. But it wasn't mentioned. So a lot of people from Europe actually ordered limited run games. So it's now sold out. And then some French retro Twitter actually figured out that this is in the making. They found this in a Dutch forum, and so it made round in the German retro community over Twitter. So the American release is over limited run games, and that's sold out already. And the UK release is signatured games.
Yes.
And there's a signature and a normal edition. And the normal edition, as far as I understood, will also be in the store later. But you can pre-order it from them as well.
Okay.
Actually, cool. I have to say I didn't get the signature edition. I will get the normal physical edition because I really don't think it's worth the extreme top price. I mean, if you look at what happened the past years, where other publishers or stores suddenly wanted $139 for a re-release of a game.
Yeah.
And now, well, the money is tight anyway due to COVID-19 and that stuff. So it's not really a good time to throw your money out because you don't know.
It's not.
Yeah. Anyway, so if you don't mind not living in the EU and you still want to get it, you can get it from signatured edited games. So from the UK. And since we know the UK is leaving the European Union, so this might be one of your last chances to get something without paying taxes, because after December 31st, 2020, they are out of the EU. So starting next year, getting something from UK will be a lot harder and more expensive.
Yeah.
Which is bad because much stuff comes from the UK.
Yeah. As you mentioned, because of the ongoing COVID-19 nonsense, money is a little bit tight. If for some reason you happen to be one of the people for whom money is not tight, we will put a couple of links to some places where you can donate some money to people that actually need it. Rather than if you'd rather help some people versus buying a video game, do that. That's just my opinion. I mean,
I anyway spent the money on getting the limited edition of Command & Conquer.
But you're not in an issue where you're short on money. You're still working. I'm still working. We're doing pretty good through this.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I'm just saying that I was actually looking forward to it when it was announced before COVID-19.
Right. Yes.
Just to defend myself a bit.
Yes. I've got one here. Messiah, the MIDI SID software, still out of stock.
Didn't we mention that last time?
We mention it every month.
I know. Yeah. Okay, so here's something. What most people don't know, under the account user-533729915, Rob Hubbard actually has a valid SoundCloud account where he puts his releases up.
We're going to have to put a link to that down there because no one's going to remember whatever nonsense you just said.
Yeah, it's kind of incognito.
Yeah.
Well, so other news. Today started the pre-order of the Games That Weren't book from Frank Gasking.
Sweet.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Oh, I just saw a game that was oh God, where did I see that?
I see games all the time.
I know you live in a game, but
My life is a game.
no, there was a game that was
Yeah,
it was a game that was apparently just about completed and wasn't released, and it was just found. You saw it too. You saw it too. What the hell, Joust?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, yes. If
Joust.
I can find the link, because I can't. Yeah, I can't find it right now, so I don't know.
Well, you can. You just go. Just go to the Games That Weren't homepage. No, just go to the Games That Weren't homepage. GTW 49. Google it.
Okay, I got it right now. Joust C64 found games that weren't.
Yeah.
Put a link right there.
Exactly. So Frank Gasking gets his own book. Isn't that awesome?
Yes, it is. And Joust has been found and released. Ken van Mersbergen, known as Dutchman 2000, found and preserved the Atari Soft conversion of Joust. So this is the original without the E, because they back then they would make like knockoffs with just like add an extra letter to the end or something. So this was found. It was recovered from the archives of a retired programmer that used to work for Rockland, which I guess was the company that did it. It was found on an 8-inch CPM disc that was labeled Popeye, which had the full source code and hex image to be able to create the cartridge image. So they plan to show that for the first time at VCF Midwest and ECCC in September, if that actually happens. And after that, the CRT will be released general public. Just a couple of screenshots, which we will plop right here over what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And yeah, it looks not bad for a 1980. I mean, this was a game that was working that they were working on in 1984, and it never got released because of the game crash of '84. So to have actually something like this.
No, the video game crash was '83.
Yes.
Not 84.
Well, either way, this was.
And it was US only.
Yeah. Either way, this was supposed to be released in '84, but it was being developed in '83, and because of the crash, it didn't go anywhere. So it's cool to see that and to see new things like that coming out, and we'll put a link to where you can find all about that and blah blah blah. And you know how it works. Okay, sir, continue.
Nice. So last podcast we mentioned that Digital Talk will stop, and the German Talk Disc Mag.
Yes.
That actually gave me the idea back then that we should do a disc magazine on our own in English at NTST PAL. So they said the 108th issue should be the last one. And then at the beginning of April, they made an announcement that they found somebody who is trying to continue the magazine. So now they are working on 109th issue.
Okay.
And then deciding after the 109th issue if they go on like that or not.
Okay.
Cool. And Stefan Höttgen, who is actually researching, history and stuff about computer history.
Yes.
He made an article for the supposed last issue, the 108th, when the data learned to do journeys. And this German article was actually also published at a German publishing house homepage.
Right.
Heise, which is pretty big here in Germany. So we will put a link to that.
All right.
And to the announcement of the Digital Talk homepage. So hopefully when you listen to this, there will be some more news about that. We'll see. I mean, it's good to see that this magazine that was founded in '93 is not going to die that soon.
Absolutely. Every disc mag that exists keeps us rolling along a little bit more. And yeah, I
someday Scene will be the last one.
Yes, probably.
When you are 60.
That's not that long away, actually.
Come on, you're not 50 yet.
No, I'm not. But no, I'm not. But eventually, I will be. And
how old are you actually? 42?
41.
41. See,
yes.
I was close.
I don't look it. I don't. Damn it! I don't look it. Shake my finger like an old man.
You could still color your hair.
Mm-hmm. It's still pretty. I got a little bit of paint in it. That's about it. You know, that's. As you can see, I've been working on my car.
You're not planning to?
Nah. I've got something here. There's a project I just learned about. It is called the VHDL 6526, and it is an FPGA version of a 6526, a CIA. Which is my response to that is about goddamn time, because that's the one thing that we don't have. We have got FPGA versions of every other goddamn thing that lives in the C64.
Not necessarily. There are still some that.
Yeah, but the CIA has been one of the ones that is useful not just in the 64 and the 128, but also the Amiga uses the CIAs as well, a slightly modified version, but basically the same thing. The 128 actually, the 128 and the Amiga, you can use the Amiga's CIAs in the 128, and I don't think it goes the other way around. But my 128, which is back there, actually has Amiga CIAs in them.
Where we come back to the topic that I'm so disturbed by so many people who are telling half-true stuff. For example, when people think that the Super PLR was a PLR replacement. No, it's not. It's actually the name Commodore put for the PLR in the C64C. It was officially called Super PLR.
It's a Toshiba chip, I think. It's a big fat one.
Yeah, because Commodore improved the PLR and called it Super PLR. Yes. And people think to this day like, oh, it's a replacement. No, it's not. It's not true. It's not true.
It's a PLA and a bunch of other things mushed into one chip, which is much cooler and much more reliable.
Exactly, but it can still print.
And much more soldered on.
And to my knowledge, there is no replacement chip for that one.
No. Yeah. It's rare that they crap out though, which is probably why
I had it.
Really?
Yeah, I had it.
That's a first. I've never heard of that before.
Well, it was just a hot summer day.
Huh.
I use my old hardware even on hot summer days.
So do I. Oh, absolutely. I learned to code. The moment when I first learned to code was on a super hot. We didn't have air conditioning in my house except for downstairs, and my room was of course upstairs. So I'm on the phone with Warnock of RPG, and I'm literally go upstairs to my room, which was probably 115 degrees, and I would
which is what in Celsius?
46.
46.
Warm. It was super warm, and I'd run upstairs and I'd type some stuff, and I'd type until I couldn't stand being in the room anymore. Then I'd run back downstairs to the air conditioning, talk to him some more about what to do next. Then I'd run back upstairs into the heat and type a little bit more, then run back downstairs into the cool.
Well, it survived, but that was 30 years ago.
Yes. Now everything's got heat sinks.
Yeah.
Now everything's got heat sinks, and it's in a cool temperature-controlled room. It doesn't get above 75 in here. So.
Which is what?
75 is 23 degrees, 24 degrees.
Celsius.
Yeah, so a comfortable. This is why I sometimes wear jackets in here, because it's not that warm. it's warm, it's comfortable if it's like a hot day out, but when it's cold out, it feels colder down here. But yeah,
I see. Anyway, so let's fly the helicopter.
Woohoo!
Uh-huh.
There was something I also wanted to. Oh God, what was I gonna say? I don't know.
This new section is never going to end.
Oh well,
I found something else.
Yeah, no. Okay, so no helicopters.
Rufflecopter.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect.
Okay.
So, today we are talking to Hakan Bilenler and Hien Tran from Nukklear, and that's a developing studio in Hanover, Germany, actually.
Yes.
So, thanks for joining us.
Hi,
welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having us.
And we will talk today about Comanche, which is actually originally a helicopter series that started in '92, and you got the task and working with publisher THQ Nordic to, I would say, probably reboot the series.
Yes.
Yes.
Because, because you just call it Comanche, so I guess since it's no Comanche and no additional name, I thought probably means you are rebooting the whole series.
Yeah, that is quite correct. I think we can explain that part a bit more, but we looked at the old Comanche parts, and it was hard for us to translate those into basically into 21st century, right? How we play games today is very, very different than how it was done 20 years ago, with basically everything being online and multiplayer and things having changed very much since back then. We thought rebooting it would be a better idea.
Interesting.
And to modernize it basically. And we had quite some cool ideas that we wanted to apply, and that was enabled because we were basically free to reboot it and make our own version of it basically.
Okay. And you are the lead artist and art director 3D actually of the game.
Yes. That is my job description. Yes. but as it is, you of course do a lot more than just like yeah.
Okay.
I have many responsibilities, and those two are my main, surely.
I see. And Kwai or Tui? How did you get involved in this thing?
Yeah, so I was actually approached by Nukklear to join the team for Comanche at some point. And back then I have been working also before on, for example, Dreadnought. I don't know whether you know this. It's also kind of a flight shooter, if you want so. It was a space shooter basically, so I had also some experience with like vehicle-based shooters, also class-based vehicle-based shooters. So when I got on board, I was quite hyped because I was also able to transfer a lot of knowledge I got from Dreadnought to Comanche. We tried a lot of several things. So I came to the studio to the development in a quite early phase of the development. So we still had a bit wiggle room of how much we could experiment with all these things we had in mind, and we tried several things. We also tried things that would be more like the old Comanche titles, if you want, but we also went further and tried to have never been in any Comanche title, like for example the drones.
Yeah.
And this came to the point that we also like implemented a lot of different drones with different behaviors and also different Comanches with different behaviors, because we were like kind of experiment with all these kind of things. And so yeah, we started to like the idea to let them fight against each other in the multiplayer game as well, and it worked out really well. So we thought like could be a great foundation to build upon, and we always liked the idea to provide a single player game, but for us it just made more sense as well to think of maybe we should start with a very rock solid foundation from where we can go in any direction. And this is kind of like where we started off then, the beginning of the reboot.
I wonder, how did you get prepared for the reboot? I guess the first part of the series were released where you were probably too young to remember playing it firsthand yourself, I would guess.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I remember a bit of it because my cousins were also like playing a lot of video games, and actually I came to video games because of my cousins, probably, I would say. So it was always great for me to visit them, and then like they would show me games and stuff like this, and this actually really invoked the passion in myself, like that I wanted to play video games and at some point also do video games. But of course, like when it comes to Comanche, I would say I had to revisit the games for sure now as well, because I wasn't able to remember everything I was seeing maybe when I was a little kid. And also it was very important to reevaluate what the old games are about, how they feel, and what the series is about, so we could try to implement or also take in things that have been before there and which are like kind of defining the Comanche series, if you want so.
That's actually a good point, because I remember when Martin and I, when we went to other game presentations, I'm usually the guy who asks like from the old titles, and sometimes the young game designers are totally lost on how to answer my retro-related game questions. You know, so it's good that you prepare yourself and know what you're talking about. And I guess especially for you, Hakan, as a lead artist, it must be like eye cancer to look at the old parts.
Well, I wouldn't. I mean, that's no. I mean, of course they are dated, but that's kind of charming if you look at them today, like with the technology back then. I am actually old enough to have. I have played the Comanche 3 and 4 then later, of course, but 4 wasn't that good, I guess. Like 3 was a better part. And yeah, I mean the voxel graphics everybody was talking about, because there was no other way to render big maps back then. So that was a kind of one of the ways to make it look actual like a big map, right? So, but today that's not an issue anymore. You have like modern engines with lots of capabilities, lots of open world scenarios that are already tried, true, and tested. So we didn't have to generate our own voxel engine, which was quite quite nice. I don't know. I look fondly at old games, because back then they were what was possible, right? So it was cutting edge back then. So it's okay. It's like looking at an old timer car and saying, why is it not as safe as a modern car? So it's because stuff changes, right?
Well,
I mean, it was also way ahead at times, right? So I feel like it's not doing it justice to say it was bad graphics, because I can imagine like everyone probably experienced it like the games we experience right now, like where this was like a cutting edge technology, everybody's looking at it and like seeing something really realistic in it, and also imagining something way more high fidelity than we are used to now. That kind of it gets shapes in your imagination, which is really cool. I think.
One thing that you pointed out in the presentation especially was your support of old flight sticks and controllers. And I would be interested to hear what was the reason for this decision to make this part of a presentation and point it out as a special feature.
Well, that is not. I mean, I don't have that much information about that, so Creel is gonna open that question up even more. But it was basically like one thing was, of course, like flight simulations and flight sticks go together like, I don't know, bread and butter, I guess. And of course, the fans, as we are developing it with the community, there was like very clear messages that they wanted support for flight sticks and such kind of devices. So we heard that and we said, okay, we have to. That is. I mean, it was like we were always thinking about that. That's kind of basic, but that gave us the confirmation that we were on the right track, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, also like all the older titles supported flight sticks and joysticks, but also mouse control. And for us, it would have been really a step backwards if we wouldn't support it. It's a helicopter game at the end, right? So
Right.
True. True. But I had this little experience that I was buying myself No Man's Sky because of the graphics, and I thought like, wow, the controls are pain. I will get a flight stick. Then I tried to use the flight stick and it didn't work, and I asked the customer support, and they said flight sticks are not supported. I was like, are you serious? Are you serious? You have to use a control, a keyboard emulation software as a bridge between the flight stick and the game. I was like, oh my god, are you serious? No. So this is why this is so important for me, because I was so happy that this was a thing for you in the presentation.
Well, that's why we did it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I guess No Man's Sky is also a little bit of a different genre. Also in terms of that you can unmount or exit your vehicle, and it's kind of a shooter or of ego. Well, it's kind of like first-person perspective as well, where you have to move around, which of course adds complexity when you think about joysticks and how to control when you are actually walking on the planet, right?
Yeah, you would have to switch between the mouse and your setup, basically. If you have a big setup, that would be quite painful. As I know from a friend who plays simulation games and car simulations, especially, and iRacing and stuff like that. So he can't play any other games on that rig because it's just set up for that, and it's like a pain just to attach a keyboard and a mouse, because he has like all the sitting stuff and the pedals and the stuff. It's like he has to disassemble all the stuff and then just put a plate so he can use his mouse and keyboard. So I guess that would be, for really hardcore fans, that would be quite an issue to switch between those all the time.
Good point. So what are the parts and the features of the game that we do remember from the old parts? Just to name a few.
I didn't get the I didn't understand the question. I'm sorry.
I mean, you said earlier that you try to keep the feeling of the series also in the reboot. And so we know that the graphics are not something you kept, but what is something you kept in the reboot of Comanche that is special for this series and can't be found anywhere else?
Well, I would say the especially the flight model, how it flies, how it feels to fly. I mean, sure, it is not the same. It is different. We did a completely new model based on modern stuff, but the feeling of I would say I mean, I'm a simulation player, but I really like to fly in Comanche, and I did really like to fly in the old Comanches. So Comanche was never really about complete simulation, right? It was just the right amount, and most of it was just shooting stuff and having fun. Because back at the time, there were those big simulations with, I don't know, like this thick handbooks and stuff like that. But for Comanche, you didn't really need it, right? You could just go in and just start flying it and shooting stuff. And even though the flight model was quite realistic for that time, so we try to emulate that, right? We build our flight model, which is quite on the simulation side, but it's not as hard to control because we gave the players options, right? We have more of an arcade flight controls, which is much easier to control if you're not that much into flight games. But if you're really into that stuff, we have our simulation controls, which are much harder, but are give you more control, right, on how you want to fly. And also, I would say from the visual stuff, we like Comanche. The Comanche helicopter was, back at the time, looked really like futuristic and out of a sci-fi movie. But when you look at the Comanche right now, it kind of looks cute. It's like, because it looks dated, right? Because if you look at modern war machinery, it has a different aspect right now. So we wanted to make it look menacing and cool, and as we had all these ideas for these different types of Comanches, we wanted to basically give the same feeling, like, okay, this is not today, right? This is a little bit in the future. This is like the next thing that is going to come. So those are those are like some of the parts we want to keep or reiterate basically for the new Comanche.
Yeah, you are still in open beta on Steam, I saw.
We're in early access right now.
Yeah, sorry, early access. That's the term. Yeah, I confused it, but that's what I meant. Yeah, early access, right? Yeah. So you are still in completing the game.
Sure. Yes, we have put out our early access version, and we wanted to develop that with the community, which we said from the very beginning. And that's what we're also doing. Like, we have a Discord channel. We talk there we engage with our community, and a lot of stuff that ends up in the version is from that direct feedback we are getting. So, yeah, it's quite interesting.
There's one experience Martin and I had. Martin bought the game too, and he wanted to play with me, and then we figured our team is not big enough. You can't have a two-player mode. At least Martin and I couldn't figure out how we could do a two-player battle session.
Oh, just one-on-one, basically. Or
yeah.
Oh yeah, we have a matchmaking system for that. But we can elaborate a bit more on that, I guess.
Yeah. So Martin and I, we wanted to fight against each other, but that didn't work. Just to explain it, because it said like you need 2 more people to join. Like, okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me? I think my internet.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So our matchmaking is still like we're still working on it. It's not perfect yet. So with the next update, there will be major changes as well coming in again for the matchmaking, because we identified some issues where it doesn't work well, and So in the current iteration, at least, you can also do one-on-ones. So if you and your friend are queuing in at the same time, you most likely will also be playing against each other. But it still has some problems, and we're still working on it. I don't know about whether I should go into detail here because it's kind of techie stuff.
Depends on you. We have all the time.
Yeah, we love techie stuff.
Yeah.
Just very briefly, for example, that I don't know, am I allowed to say it? I guess I am. We will introduce continuous play, for example, so that people don't need to requeue and they will stay in the match and have it more comfortable to actually, if they once in the game or playing online, that they don't need to go through all the hassle of the matchmaking again, because it can be tedious sometimes. That's one of the many improvements that I just, as a little sneak preview.
That means Martin and we can try it again in a few weeks. Because
you can try it right now. Right?
we were sitting there and no game started. Like, okay.
Oh yeah, this should be fixed now. So if you do it now, you should be able to find each other. So you probably played in a little bit earlier version of the matchmaking than is right now.
Oh yes, we bought it on release day. So
okay. So you could expect like a release of early access for us was also a bit rough with the matchmaking then, and still working on it.
Interesting. So you said you have been playing the old parts, and I wonder, did you actually have the idea of doing the reboot, or was actually THQ Nordic approaching you? If it's not a secret to tell.
Well, we did approach THQ Nordic for that, they agreed. So we worked out, and it worked out, and then we started working on it. We did a quick prototype back then, and THQ really liked that one, and then we kind of came to an agreement, and then we started. Yeah.
Wow.
So it is actually like for us a passion project, and we approached them. I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, we had other people before, and it was a similar story. So why not? I wonder, how big is your team actually? Is it more like a smaller studio, or?
Well, in today's standards, right? Like, I don't know. I would say like for today's standards, it is on the smaller side, but we're still around like 40 people. I think everybody, like when you are like counting everyone, I guess around 40 people.
Okay.
30 to 40, maybe like this.
30 to 40. Yes, let's say 30 to 40. I don't have the exact number. It's more than 7, so I can't count it. So.
But at least you have enough resources to finish the game and work on it, because some games, some reboots, they are taking like 5 years already, and I know AJ sometimes keep asking me, is the game out yet?
Yeah.
No 5 years. No.
Okay.
I would say we will. I don't know. Do we have a certain time? I'm not even sure if you have already announced it. So I'm not gonna say anything. But it's not gonna take 5 years. I can promise you that.
I mean, you are on early access already, so I guess you are far enough. So now we spoke a lot about old players and and the old parts, and what you continued with the reboot. So what you have there to offer for new gamers that didn't play the old parts?
So I think to play our game or to like our game, it's not necessarily that you have been playing the old titles, and that's what we suggest also through the title, not adding the 5 into it, right? Also, like, I think we are trying, if you look at it, like the last one was almost like 20 years ago, the last release, the first one even longer. And what we're trying to is like to modernize it a bit, right? We're also trying to fill a special helicopter market. So if you look at all the helicopter games, there's nothing quite similar like what we are doing right now. And if you play our game, I think you will quickly identify parallels to rather modern games that we are drawing inspiration from. If you look at it, for example, as a helicopter game, it's one of the, maybe the only one right now which can identify itself as more like a hero-based kind of approach, where you play on a very high competitive game modes, which reminds game modes from Counter-Strike, for example, let's say, or like Bomb Defusal or whatever, which are really, really popular in the esports area, right? And we were really looking forward to create a helicopter game where the skill ceiling is actually high, and now we have to see whether we overshot this premise or not. But there are a lot of people who think that our game is too difficult, especially because you have to control and you have to aim and shoot at the same time, which can be very overwhelming. But I think we also were kind of like looking towards creating something unique, and that is that intense in terms of you have to be high skilled and your awareness has to be on edge. Almost like when you're controlling your drone and switching back from Comanche to drone back and forth, it's almost you're getting into a state of playing, I don't know, a StarCraft or whatsoever, and micromanaging the units there. I think there are a lot of features that also draw new players into the game if they are interested enough to look into a helicopter game and get not and are not afraid to try a helicopter game and just thinking of the, I don't know how to say, like expectations that you usually have from helicopter games, because I think it's the best way to approach our game is to not have any expectations at all.
Okay. Well, you mentioned that some people might think the controls are too complex. I was actually quite happy with the training session you offer, and flying through doors in the sky or something. And I felt a bit like playing rings, exactly. Yeah. And it felt a bit like playing Master of the Lamps from Activision, or playing an old Sonic game where you have to go through rings. I was like, oh my god! So I don't know if this was intended, but it felt a bit similar to what I've seen before. So it was easier for me to pick it up and not be too scared about the controls. But of course, the first time I tried it, I crashed. Because I got too confused.
They always crash on the first time. It's okay.
Yeah. I don't know how it was for you, Martin, because you are less of a gamer. What was your experience?
That was my experience. Crashing was a thing then. I'm actually just a casual gamer, and And to get this straight, we are making games too. But if you call yourself just a little studio, we are just 3 people working on games. So, and actually, I was very delighted because as a non-active player, getting into it, crashing 1-2 times, but then getting straightforward in the game was actually a good experience for me.
Well, then the flight the flight training helped. I mean that was right. So we heard that from a lot of people that were new to flight simulations and to helicopter games. Were like, this would be really nice to have. I mean, we wanted to do it anyway, right? So have a flight training, and then we also got some feedback in the first beta, and we said, okay, let's do it. Let's make it rising in difficulty so you can see where it can go, right? Like if you have made the advanced one and flew through it perfectly, it means okay, you're ready for the slaughter, basically. So
Slaughter.
yeah. So yeah, that's nice to hear that it helped you guys.
Yeah. I'm curious whether you or which flight preset you chose, or did you choose the same, every one of you, or did you choose different ones?
Well, I tried with my Xbox 360 controller first, but then I decided, okay, I go with keyboard and mouse. Because I have the problem with the controller sometimes that it's too sensitive, and then I'm going back to keyboard and mouse. But yes, I'm more the controller and joystick guy, because pretty much like HA, I used to play with a joystick and then I switched to a gamepad with the NES and Super NES. So when it comes to flying games, my first flying game was Flight Simulator 2 from '84, and I guess it's the same for HA.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that was our first experience.
84. All right. Yeah, I got into flight stuff more like in the 90s.
So where you had keyboard layovers.
Yeah.
To put, so you know which keys to press.
I still do occasionally play Microsoft Flight Simulator, and it's pretty much the same game as the 1984 version, just with updated graphics. So.
Well, yeah, that's basically it, right?
Yeah.
Though the new one looks really exciting. So
it does.
see what happens there.
So yeah. So that was also another thing you mentioned in the presentation, and that was couch co-op that you mentioned.
We're hearing a lot about couch co-op from different places now, because it used to be just 2-player. That's how that worked, and now we're getting couch co-op where people are not necessarily playing together online, but playing together in the same room with the same machine. So yeah, I'll let you.
You want to take that one? I have no answer to that question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we have been considering a lot of crazy stuff, but couch co-op is not really considered to be implemented in the near future. I mean, it's difficult, right? I mean, if you think about it, what would be the options? Like you could either have like a split screen mode, or which is not to implement also. It's not, or you have like someone is controlling, or 2 players controlling the shared screen. Right. Which is also difficult because I think like the guy who is aiming will put the one who is flying very off, and so. Right now, we're concentrating on getting the core right. Anything else is matter to be discussed, as we also always say in the and request stuff. And we don't. I mean, it's everything is good feedback. We want to take it into account and see where it gets us. So also we have the survey where people can put in input, or we have Discord where people give feedback on what features they want to see. Couch co-op, actually I haven't heard as much as you. It is, I mean, probably it's the first time now, but sounds interesting. You should put it into the feedback form.
Maybe. Well, I have to admit, and Martin has a similar experience. When I first started the game, it gave me a warning that my graphics card is maybe too old. Like, okay, and then as the early access progressed, you actually made it possible so I can play it without having buffer errors because of too little video RAM or something. So I guess now if you put in split screen and have 2 helicopters on the screen, that would probably even need a better graphics card and more CPU power, I guess.
Yes, definitely. What is your graphics card, if I may ask?
If I'm not mistaken, 1050 Ti.
All right, should actually be enough. It's weird that you get errors for that, but
that's it was in the early beta.
Oh, okay.
I got early beta access.
Back then, yes. All right.
Yeah,
back then it was not completely supported yet.
Yeah, and it asked me. The first thing the survey asked me is like, what is the hardware that you are having? And I was below the requirements for the hardware.
Oh, jeez.
And I got accepted anyway. I guess that is because you wanted to know if my computer can handle it. And then when early access started, I was like, okay, finally, I'm not getting a warning anymore, you know?
What are the requirements at this point?
Well, we recommend a 1060 and up, of course, but you can play with a 1050, and I don't have them like in my mind right now, but it goes quite low nowadays. I think you can go down to a 900 series.
Yeah, I mean a 1060, you should be able to play it on epic settings, ultra epic or high.
Yeah, should be
without problems.
Mostly on the highest settings, basically.
Highest, yeah. Yeah. So there have been quite some optimization passes still ongoing, and we will still optimize it. But we are also, like, compared to the first alpha version, it's something else now already.
Yes.
I'm not sure if we are allowed to keep it in this interview, because there was an NDA where it says like, don't talk about it at all with anybody. But I guess now that the early beta phases is over, it's fine, I guess.
Yeah,
it's all right. I mean,
okay.
It's okay.
I don't want to.
Navy SEALs crashing through your windows on ropes.
Yeah, we got him.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first reaction when I saw the presentation was like, "Wow," yeah, and back in 2019, we even didn't know what we were signing up for, because THQ Nordic was like, Game 1, Game 2, Game 3, Game 4. You know?
A lot of announcement happened at that day, so yeah.
Yeah. So, and it just said like old flight IP reboot.
Yeah.
And
didn't even say that, I guess. It was just Game 1. That's all.
Yeah, but when you actually booked it, it explained a bit what the game would be about, what genre. So if you expect a soccer game, that you even wouldn't book the game, I would guess. And then I was thinking in my head like, Afterburner, unlikely.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, and then I was like, okay, Comanche, that's great. I remember that one. And it's interesting to pick up an IP that's, as I said, like didn't have a release in almost 20 years, and that is probably forgotten by most people. And now you're doing it again. Yeah. So you make us old dudes very happy. Right.
Well, there you go.
All right. So, well, what else could we talk about? Of course, we wouldn't want too much spoilers, but is there something you work on right now, apart from, multiplayer improvement, that you want to talk about?
Well,
anything? Any feature?
It's I guess we are allowed to talk about it, right? I mean, it's not. Yeah. So basically, we have been now also putting a lot of emphasis on expanding our single player part of the game, which was always like the plan. Basically, as you know, we when we went, there was a bit of single player already, just as a teaser or taster, and we definitely want to expand it because we want it to be a full-fledged counterpart to the multiplayer, so that we really have like what you get is like 50% single player, 50% multiplayer for the price tag, basically. Something like that we're aiming for. And Comanche has always been a single player game as well. And it's important for us to keep this tradition. And as you said, like we are trying also to make fans of the Comanche series happy, of course. We are fans ourselves. And it's important for us also to stay truthful to the brand. And yeah. So a lot of multiplayer content incoming, for sure.
That's actually a good point you make.
Single player, sorry. Multiplayer and single player, both.
Yeah, of course. Understood. That's actually a good point you make, because back then, when games started, multiplayer was a feature. And then you had online multiplayer that was a feature. And in the last 10 years, we had a lot of multiplayer games that didn't have a single mode, and would get an add-on to allow single-player missions as a feature. So that totally got twisted around.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially publishers, they look what the zeitgeist gives them, right? People are more into multiplayer these days, since the last 10, 15 years. So that's what gets pushed more, right? So we also started from a multiplayer point, because that part is always harder. You can't always make a single player out of a multiplayer game, but the other way around, you see a lot of projects that had issues with that, right? So not gonna say the names right now, but it's always when there was this time period where every single player game had a tacked on multiplayer part, and it would feel like that. It was tacked on, and it didn't really work because it clearly started as a single player game, and then they had to move the code base to multiplayer and stuff like that, and that's always much harder than just go the other way. So that's why we also started with a that's why we started with a that's what we said when we said we want a good core, right? We want if you can do multiplayer, single player it's kind of easy if I may be a little bit too confident, too overconfident, basically. I mean, yeah. So
it also has a lot of technical implications, right? I mean, every feature has to be thought in a different way. If it has to be replicated through the network or not, changes the whole how do you implement this feature. And if you start implementing for single player, you tend to forget to think of these things, and implementing netcode afterwards tend to be a bit more complicated than doing it the other way around. Also, some studios split their teams in single player, multiplayer teams and stuff like this. It always depends on the resources you have, right? For us, it was the more sensible way to do it this way if we want to be most efficient with the resources we have to create multiplayer and single player experience, for sure.
I guess back then you had other issues like AIs. I mean, a famous example would be the Tiberian Collector of Command and Conquer. If he was attacked, he would move towards the attacker. So like, oh my god, how intelligent can this AI be? If you are attacked and you don't drive over the soldier, you are driving towards him and still getting attacked. So I guess nowadays you don't have such issues because you have so much room, so much memory and resources to make good AIs for single player mode.
Well, making a good AI is still quite hard, right? Because nowadays everything scales up. Basically, you just don't. And real-time strategy AI is completely not a thing, I guess. But making good AI is still quite hard, right? Because it kind of has to emulate human behavior, right? It has to be able to make errors, but not like look stupid. Right. And it doesn't have to like give you the feeling that it's cheating and stuff like that. So to make it feel natural is always a hard technical and design issue, I guess. And I don't know, just like that's again a quest for Quiz, so I'm just gonna prepare for it and I'm gonna answer it probably.
Always just a great introduction for me. So
yeah, so that's how we do.
Basically, yes. I mean, AI in games is a lot about making the AI not looking stupid, right? In a way, if it's not stupid, it's believable. If you think of Command and Conquer, really, if you translate AI, what they had into our game, it probably wouldn't be that believable anymore. But out of the perspective they had, and you are not that close to the unit, you're looking on the grand scale of a battlefield, you don't notice the inconsistencies or basically weird behavior that a human being would never do when they are really on the battlefield, because you're more aware of the macro layer of the game. It becomes more and more difficult when you have to look. Well, don't want to say difficult, but you have to look at a lot of layers and details when it comes. What kind of game are you actually doing right now? Which perspective are you playing? And AI in games is still as complex. To achieve something believable is still as complex as it has been before. Also because it goes hand in hand with what is possible. So for example, the graphic fidelity, stuff like this, also adds to we need better behavior also, because everything kind of has to scale in the same amount together. Otherwise, it feels odd.
Yeah, like if you have a cute game, right, and the AI isn't as smart as a human, it's kind of more forgivable than when you have super realistic graphics and the NPCs kind of behave weird, right? They had big issues with some bugs in Mafia 3, for example. Oh, I didn't want to drop names, but I mean that because it was so out there. They had some issues, and like graphically it looked good, but you noticed the I would say the inconsistencies even more if it because you have a certain expectation, right? If it looks kind of cutie and fun, it's just it doesn't matter that much. But right. If it tries to portray something realistic, it is much more important, I guess. And it also depends on how how many are there, right, on the other side? Like, with how many enemies or NPCs do you have to fight that? If it's only one, it basically kind of has to behave like a human, right? Because you would expect everything that you would do from it, because it's a one-on-one, so it has to be good.
Right.
But if it's like a swarm of 100 enemies, it doesn't. I mean, because you can't keep track of it anyway, right? So if the AI is kind of dumb, it's okay, because there's so many of them that they're just overwhelm you. I mean, if you look at a game like, I don't know, Diablo, they all have like different AIs, but they're very simplistic. It's just made up by the number, because that's the fun. It's like, you don't want to have like that one enemy that just you have to fight for 10 minutes, right? You just want to smash him. So, and that is the important part, right? So how many enemies do you want to fight, and how complex does it have to get, and how much time do you have, right? So if you have a game where you can die very quickly, you need a different approach than from a game where it is just like turn-based, right? Where you can just sit there and think about it and make decisions. So yeah.
Like arcade games. Is the end boss dead yet?
Yeah.
And you're standing there for 10 minutes and it's still not dying.
Yeah. So, or like Space Invaders AI, right? It's quite simple, but it works in that context. You don't have to have a very smart AI for that.
Gosh. Yeah. I remember one situation. There was this Terminator 2 arcade game, and the end boss was a snake on a bridge, and me and my friend.
I don't remember that in the movie.
Me and my friend, we tried to kill the end boss for 20 minutes until we realized we have to shoot on the bridge, so it falls into the water. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, love those.
Right.
Love those.
So you were shooting on the wrong place all the time.
Yeah, makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Alrighty. So, is there anything we missed from a game design perspective?
Not sure what you're asking.
I mean, we spoke about so much. Do you feel there's something we should talk about that we didn't ask?
Oh, okay. Kvi, want to take that one? I don't know. I have to think about it.
I mean, we could evaluate furthermore, or how different our flight, our helicopters, for example. We could talk about this a bit.
Sure.
This could be interesting, maybe.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because I feel like we have been putting a lot of emphasis on creating really distinguishes very different playstyles that the helicopters. Well, you need to play very different playstyles to be efficient with the helicopters, and they take really different roles. And I think this is something that works really well, surprisingly well, and if you played it, I think a lot of people wouldn't expect it to be that much into this. I mean, in a helicopter game, to be that much hero-driven or roles-driven like this, as it is in our case. So we also went a little bit overboard, and this is where we can see that we were putting definitely gameplay before realism, for example. For us, Comanche was always like it was always identifying itself like a little bit military sim action game, but I think it always also looked at it in a more of a way that it always put gameplay first, what is fun. And in the old titles, you could also see that there are a lot of things that are a little bit more complex, where it hints towards a more simulation complex game. But then there are a lot of systems which are quality of life systems in the flight model, for example, where you could also see, it has, especially when you look at Comanche 4, of course, right? It is more like we want to nudge it into a way where we think the vision is more giving the player, for example, the feeling of power and having him playing around with the power and this feeling and this fun about it. And in our case, we also have, like, for example, repair missiles, which is kind of like crazy stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it works really well, and there are a lot of people who really enjoy playing it as a supporter and helping other friends out. And I can imagine, like, if you have a full, I mean, I know it because we play it often as a squad of 4 people, because you can also squad up as a team and then matchmake together and fight against other people. It's nice because as a full squad, you can each, like, be really careful, plan out each role, and then support each other in a helicopter game. And that's amazing, I feel, because a lot of intense moments appears. Like, I just know how often I'm, as a supporter, wanting to heal some of my friends, and you just push this button to fire the repair missile, and it's on the way, but he was just maybe a nudge too far out, and I knew it. But it's like the struggle where it's so close, it might arrive in time, but maybe not. And it just feels great if it arrives in time, and, like, you see the health bar going down, and then suddenly he survives because you just hit the button early enough and calculated it in a way that you knew, okay, this is not a waste, I can still save him. Sometimes it doesn't happen, and then you have to, like, give out to him that he went too far out. There are a lot of, like, these kind of abilities that makes each helicopter stand out and give each helicopter this moment or of, like, different feeling on the playstyle, where you're like, oh damn, with this helicopter with the helicopter support character, I feel really sad every time someone dies in front of me and the missile doesn't arrive, and this only happens with this helicopter.
Where's the missile?
And a lot of players went for the Horizon, which has a telescopic sight, and they are just kind of getting in the flow of shooting people from the far distance. Or then there's the Ghost, where the guys who, like, flying around in cloaked mode and giving call outs and trying to be like the one guy who's trying to coordinate the team and giving directions and being the scout, basically, and trying to be sneaky and then taking out an enemy. And if it happens, like, it's a great feeling, because once you're out of this cloak, you are very vulnerable. So you have to be very careful which enemy you want to pick out. So your main role is more like playing the objective and being the one who is giving call-outs, rather than actually taking people out. But if someone is misplaced, out of place, not with their squad, you can do it, and it's great. And also the original Comanche, the prototype one, which is which is supposed to be the starter Comanche, is nicely designed in a way that people who are starting the game can get used to the game more easily, because it comes with countermeasures like flares, which makes you more protective against missiles. But it also comes with auto aim assist, which allows you to concentrate more on the flying than on the shooting, because this is where people struggle most at the beginning, right? Stuff like this. Also guided missiles for the distance, so you are able to fight people from the long distance, but also from the short distance with your kit. It's probably one of the most versatile Comanches we have right now. So a lot of people who unlock Comanches, other Comanche types, still in certain situations come back to this one, because it's still a viable option. And that's what's really important for us, that every Comanche is a viable option. at any given time, no matter which Comanche you unlock next, right?
Yeah. I like playing as a rhino, which is basically a big bully. It's just if you come close to him, he will shred you to pieces with a shotgun. So I really like that. You can headbutt people out of the sky, which is really hard but really fun. So yeah, that's like more of my domain, and they're always like happening very interesting or very like even in our internal playtests, right? Me and Kui, for example, we like to hunt each other a little bit more, right? So if we can help our team, we just I don't know, we first go after each other and then we help our team. So we like to troll each other, and there are some really like happening a lot of clutch moments and stuff like that where we. I remember in one playtest I was playing with another colleague together, and we basically were just went after Kui, and he was holding out like the base, and last second went in overtime, and it like the fight continued for minutes in overtime, where he just wouldn't give up, and we wouldn't just stop killing him, and he was just always flying back, and another one's coming in, and like the objective just wasn't like they weren't giving up, and we weren't giving up. It was like a huge fight that went on for a couple of minutes in the objective with the drones and with the helicopters, and it ended when our Rhino flying pilot back then just found finally the helicopter and just shut him down. It was like really fun, exciting. So and that kind of stuff happens. So that's quite nice that you have that rush, right? That's what you look in a game. So
yes, and I think this is maybe one of the strengths of our game is like when you look at it and play as a team, you really feel like a team, and you feel like you are working as a team. Yeah. This is I mean, there are a lot of other helicopter multiplayer games, but the sense that you're playing as a little squad and you have this like teammate bonding, like feeling of really fighting side to side and being so essential to the outcome of the game. I think there we have accomplished something definitely that works very well.
And the game's not even finished yet, so
yeah, still working on it.
So when I hear you talking about it, it's like you have your milestone on your CV that you can put there. And you worked on Comanche. I wonder, is there anything else that can be better than that from your perspective?
Like for right now, no. But you never know what the future brings, right? So I mean, of course, Comanche is a passion project, and we had a lot of fun, and we're still having fun, and we love developing it, but. When it's finally done, then we go to the next project. Who knows what's the next project will be, right? So we have a lot of ideas, and there's some stuff we're working on, and like right it's like the youngest child is always the best one, you know.
Yeah, but you don't always have the possibility to pick up an old IP.
Sure,
like Comanche.
Sure, you don't. I mean, but like right now, it's cool, right? So I don't know. Let's see what the future brings and what the next one will be. Because there are some near and dear stuff that I love, right? As how I was like the style of game I like even more than Comanche. So I don't know. Maybe we do something like in that stuff. So who knows?
Shortly before Gamescom last year, THQ Nordic announced they have bought the rights to Alone in the Dark.
No.
So maybe a sequel to that.
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't, for sure.
Not a helicopter game, but can be pretty scary.
Surely it can. But
Slaying zombies with helicopters. Why not?
Right. Okay, guys. Well, then have a nice night, I could say already.
Yeah.
Almost.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Chris
So,
is
All right. Thank you,
gone,
guys.
I guess.
Yeah.
He's gone, yeah.
Say good night to him for me.
I will.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
again. Yeah, thanks to Hien Keaton and Hakan Bilenler for hanging out with us and talking about this. That's the best we're going to get it. So
There will be no other good
Yeah.
game. No, that's another thing.
yeah, for sitting with us and talking to us about this, and it's really awesome. And yeah, I hope you guys liked it. We'll put links to everything that they talked about and that we talked about in the podcast description down below, that way, or I don't know where we're going to put it. Yeah, so you can click on there and check it out and get the game and all that junk. And yeah,
Hopefully not so much junk.
it's not junk, no, but colloquialisms.
It's like
Quo-
junk
it's-
food.
It's
Ooh.
colloquialisms.
Colloquialisms?
Yes,
What is
So-
that?
colloquialism is like a down home kind of. It's a slang term.
I see. Alrighty.
So
See ya.
yes. Until next time, you know where to find us. We're on sceneworld.org. You've probably already figured that out because you're watching it. We're also on YouTube.
Not Seabird Podcast.
No, I thought I said sceneworld.org.
Yeah. I mean, the promo.
Oh yeah.
Like, you're listening to SeaWorldPodcast.org. Like,
Yeah.
where did you get that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. You know where to find us. We're at sceneworld.org. If you want to get in contact with us, it's podcast@sceneworld.org. And all of that is on the website, which you're probably looking at already. So
Righty.
until next time.
See ya.